Hello everybody, welcome to Newstead Mock number 1 video walkthrough. We're starting off with Newstead verbal reasoning, which is rearranging to make two words. We have to take one word from the left and make it go over here to the right. So which words are we taking out? We can take S out to be, let's get the highlighter. Take S out, change the color, to make rats. We put it over there and we get solution D. Question number 2, which one can we take out? If we take out the C and put it over here, we can make crumble, so that gives us solution A. Next up, if we take out the I over here, we can get chef, and then we can make pain, therefore we get C as our answer. If we take out over here the E from cheat, we get chat, and then if we put it here, we get feast, so C is our answer. Question number 5, we can take out the H and put it in cat over here to make chat, which means we get B as our answer. And then for 6, we get the answer as A, because when we take out the G, or let's highlight this, we can put it here in here and make bridge. Therefore our answer is A. So from each group for opposites, we need to find ones that are the most opposite in meaning. That's a very important part. Opposite. All these things mean the same. Free, empty, vacant, they all mean the same. So from here we need complete, and then complete, the opposite of complete is going to be partial, because vacant isn't really the opposite of complete, because vacant is the opposite of saying like full, but if you have a complete pizza and then you have a partial pizza, you're saying that it's not there in its entirety. Question number 2, we have these words here. We have plan, complete, succeed, and then fabricate and fail and fraction. We already know that complete and fabricate are sort of synonyms, so the ones that come out fully is succeed and fail are the most opposite in meaning. You can say complete and fraction, but they're not as opposite in meaning, because you could say empty. So succeed and fail would be the most opposite. Question number 3, we have open, communal, neighbor, rural, secluded, and separate. Neighbor doesn't really mean the antonym of, for example, secluded. Yes, neighbor means someone who lives next to you, but seclude, if you're excluded from people, neighbor can mean similar, but it's not the most opposite in meaning. However, in the same way that rural, the opposite is urban. That's the most opposite. Therefore, words like communal and separate are most opposite in meaning, because communal means you're with everybody, and then separate means you are not. Therefore, those are the most opposite. Question number 4, I can already see that area and measure don't really have words that are completely opposite over here, because multiply isn't really, it's quite a synonym for area, but divide and unite, if you think about where those words come from, if you divide a group of people, unite a group of people, these are the most opposite in meaning, and let's just circle those so they're more clear. Question number 5, we have hardworking, dedicated, active, failed, dormant, and unfaithful. Unfaithful does not really have a, I guess dedicated and unfaithful have similar, if you're a dedicated partner, for example, but then you can be unfaithful, but they're not really complete opposite meanings. And failed doesn't have that much of an opposite word in this group of words. However, dormant and active, if you think of a volcano, are exact antonyms. Dormant means the volcano is not active anymore, so they are opposites. And question number 6, we have interlope, intercede, interim, permeate, permissive, and permanent. And permissive, I can see already doesn't have really that much of a antonym in these words. To intercede something, it's sort of a synonym over here, where permeate and intercede sort of means to go into. However, interim and permanent, I can see interim sort of means a partial agreement or a small amount of time or a temporary period, whereas permanent means the exact opposite. It means forever or always there. So how are these words associated in analogy? Blemish, like on the face, means a mark, which is most likely to, how do you know you've got a blemish? You have a mark. Same way, how do you know you've got folly? And folly means crazy, comes from the French word la folie. And how do you know you've got folly? We have lunacy as a marker. Question number 2, fortify means to strengthen, exactly, and inaugurate means to establish something. If you hear of inauguration ceremonies, that means like presidential inauguration ceremonies means establishing the president for the first time. So these are synonyms to these words. Number 3, what sounds do these make? A clock ticks as it sounds, just like a bell rings. Question 4, these are words to describe this noun. If someone has a lot of hope, they are optimistic. It's not exactly dreaming, because dreaming has more of a sense of, oh, it might be that it's never going to happen because it's just a dream, but hope is generally associated with optimism. And then despair, if someone has a lot of despair, they are disheartened. That's an adjective to describe someone who has a lot of despair. Question number 5, address is to something, chat is to something. If you address the public, that means you are lecturing them on something. You're not purely promoting, because address means to educate someone, sort of, or if you address someone directly. If you're addressing them on a specific topic, you are lecturing them on it. And then if you're chatting, these depend on who your audience are. If you're chatting with someone, you're merely discussing. You're not listening, you're doing the one that's talking. So lecture and discuss would go together. A village is to a hamlet, as hamlet is how you divide up villages. Just like a country, you divide up countries into states. So village is to hamlet, as country is to state. Question number 7, we have stun is to something, just as trap is to something. And I can see here that stun, the opposite of stun is nuts, just like the opposite of trap is part. So in each of the case, they are palindromes, and we have their backwards words in the set of words. Question number 8, tread is to something, just like thigh is to something. When I read out these words, tread is to foot, tire, shed. Thigh and tread aren't really that related, but what is related is that tread rhymes with shed, and then thigh rhymes with fly, and that seems to be the only connection between them. Question number 9, we have dozen is to, these are talking about numbers. So you need to know that dozen is equal to 12. And score, if you've ever heard of 420 years ago in Abraham Lincoln's speech, score means 20. Question number 10, butcher is to something and greengrocer is to something. And these are jobs. What are their jobs to do with? Jobs are to do with meat, a butcher, and greengrocer is to do with vegetables. We're not talking about what apparatus they use, because a greengrocer doesn't necessarily plant as the apparatus. They use soil or seeds. Then those would have been the answers. And question 11, university is to what happens in university, what is being created or being tended to. in the same way hospital is to these things. And the only thing that creeps out to me is in universities, you tend to build knowledge. In hospital, you tend to build health. You're trying to get back to health. So 12, we have time is to something, just as distance is to something. It comes out to me that we have to use words of measuring this. So how do we measure time? Using seconds. And how do we measure distance? Using meters. We have to try and find the words for word combinations, and we have something, that's how you spell that. Question number 2 is bellowed. Bellowed means to make a loud noise or do a deep roar, mainly to do with like animals or someone who has a really deep voice. The next one, how do we spell pardon? Spelled like this, pardon. Question number 4, this one, you can use this one as sort of elimination. Sick bed comes out to me because the others just don't make sense. I didn't know that was one word, however, it can't be anything else, so it has to be the word we are looking for. Question number 5, looks like we've got something like forage, and how do I spell forage? I spell it like 4H. Question number 6, this one we can see we definitely have to have context. Question number 1, we have to find words at the end of one, at the beginning of the other. They are always 4 letters. I can see the word item over here. So we have a satellite moved. Let's go like that. Next one, we can have the word heel, which gives us C. And question number 3, we have the word, just because I can see the word eaten over here, and I know that is a name, but let's just confirm that we can't find anything else. Heffel isn't one, we have that again. Offra, toffer. So just by elimination, duvet and on seems to be the right answer. Question number 4, we have the word apex over here, apex, which means we have C. Question number 5, we have the word redo over here, redo, which means our answer is C. And then question number 6, we have the word fest in cave's taste. Therefore, our answer is B. For this one, we are always getting the middle ones, ray, and then ending it with the last consonant. Ape, ending it with the last consonant. So we have ACH, ending it with the last consonant. We get E. For the next one, we're going to write some positions. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the same way, this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. We see that they sort of get scrambled up. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, which means we get clam. Next one, we have ROT, and then we have GEM. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3. Next one, we have the last, or I guess it seems to be this R because it's second to last. Second to last word is going to be T. Next vowel, TE, and then the next the 1, 2 after that. So if we have E, it's going to be 1, 2, which is going to be 10. We get A. For question 4, it seems to be easier to use this one because we can say CAR, which means we can have ARE, the second E. So that means we have this last word R, then the first one RO. Then how many after? We have to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So after that O, we have to do 1, 2, 3, which gives us the rod. That means we get B. Question number 5, we get HAT. So we're going to use the, see, this next one gives us a clue that we don't use that first. H, we have in the middle, then we have this one over here, and then we go back to the one before the first letter we use, so H-A-T. Next one, we're going to use the one in the middle. So we're going to start off with D. Actually, the one, two, three, four letters in, which means we have to start with a W, and then after that we have to use that penultimate vowel. So the penultimate vowel is E. Then we have to use the one before the one we just used, which is going to be D. So the word is going to be wed. The next one, we have to use this one to help us. So we're going to have to use the fourth one in T-O and then combine the last two. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if that works for this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, so let's go in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We start with an R. Then we're going to go back and use that vowel R-E. Then we're going to combine the last two, S-T, which means we get rest. Question number 1 of substitution. Let's write them in. 3, whoops, let's make that look like a 3. C minus A is going to be 5 minus 2, which is going to be 3 times 3. So we get number 3 cubed, well 3 squared, is going to be equal to 9. And what letter is that? We have E. Question number 2, and we're just going to remember to put BODMAS down. And then if we put them in, we're going to have 72 divided by 8 multiplied by C plus A. Let's do the division first. We have 9 multiplied by 2, which is equal to 18, and 18 plus 5 is equal to 23, which means we get the number D. Next question, we have 10 on the outside. In fact, let's do it over here. 10, we have 12 minus 8 divided by, let's make that C. Divided by 8. So we do brackets first, which is going to be 10 times 4, and we have to deal with the brackets. This 5, this 10 is to do with the brackets. Therefore, we have to deal with that. We get 40, and just so you can see there, over 5, which is equal to 8. Therefore, which one is 8? We get E, which gives us E. For question 4, we have 5 multiplied by 6 divided by 3 minus E. BODMAS, we do this division first, so we get 5 multiplied by 2 minus 4 is equal to 6. What is 6? It is C. Next one, we have 6. C times A is going to be 3 times 1 minus E, which is 9. So we get 6 times 3, which is 18, minus 9, which gives us 9 again, which is going to be E. Next one, we have E 33 minus 27 multiplied by B minus 27. So in there we have 33 minus 27 is going to be 6 times 5 minus 27 is going to be 30 minus 27, which is 3, so we get A. For question 1 of Complete the Alphabet series, I'm going to focus on this last word, letter, which goes C, D, E, F, last one has to be G. You can cross these out, and then this one goes A, C, E, G, which means we're adding 2 each time. The next one has to be I, which means we get D. Question number 2. Next question, we have W, Y, A. What's going on here? W to Y is 2, W to A is 2. Going to C, we're adding 2 each time, so add 2 to G, and we get I at the end, which means we can cross out all of these and just get C as our answer. Next one, let's focus on the front one, the front letter. We're going from N to L to J. We're minusing 2 each time, so F minus 2 is going to be D, which means you can cross out this one, D and E. Let's move down a bit. Then the next one we have Q, P, over here, Q, P, N, K. It seems like we're minusing 1, minusing 2, minusing 3. So N to K is minus 3, and K is 1, 2, 3, 4, which means this has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we minus 5 from G, we're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which gives us B at the end. So our answer is A. Question number 4, we have P, Q, S, V, Z. And I'm just going to scroll out so we can see the alphabet as well. P, Q, S, V, Z. P, Q, S, V. It seems like we have the same thing. We're going to add 1, add 2, etc., etc. Add to V, so 1, 2, 3, V to Z is 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which means we get E at the beginning, which means we can cross out these. Then we have to find the next. We have A, B, D, G. Seems like we're having the same thing. A, B, D, G. So we add 3, add 1, 2, 3, 4 for K, add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for P. So we get D as our answer. The next one we have D, F, H, J first, which means we have D, F, H, J. We're adding 2 each time. So after L, we are going to have N. That already means we can cross out this one, and this one. The next one we have N, M, L, K, J, N, M, L, K, J. Just going back, we're just getting I. So if we have I next, that means our solution is going to be C. Next one is A, B, C, D, E, F. So if this seems to be going, let's fix it. 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't seem it's going just up, H, I, J. So let's focus on what's happening on just the first. We have A, C, F, J, O. A, C, F, J, O. So we have plus 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to add 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We start with U. This is going to be cross out anything that doesn't start with U. And then next up, we have B, D, F, H, J. B, D, F, H, J. We're just adding 2 each time, so we're going to get L. We get UL as our answer. Question number 5. Let's write over here bod mass, and that will help us very much to do our calculations. Let's do multiplication first. 15 plus 23 is gonna give us 38. That means 42 minus 4 is gonna give us 38. Question number 2, multiplication is going to be 14 times 7. It's going to be 8. 98 plus 3 is going to be equal to 101, which means 81 plus 20 is equal to the same. 81 plus 29, we have 0, 1, 9, 110 minus 17 is going to be 93, because we minus 10, then minus 7. 33 plus 29, that's 12, and then 3, add 1 is 4, add 2, that's 62. 62 plus 31 is going to be the same. Next question, we have 65 divided by 13. We do division first. Division is going to be 5 times 9 is equal to 45. So then we have 5 times 3 is 15. Multiply that by 3 and we get the same. Next up, we have question 5, which is 35 minus 13 is going to be 22. Therefore, we have add 2. That's 5 times 4 is 20. Add 2 is going to be C. Then we have 50 plus 16 is going to equal to 66. 49 plus 7, that's going to be 76 minus... we're going to have 86 minus 20, which is going to be C. Question number 1. Some leaves were floating about on the lake. We get E. Question 2. I love the way the house had perfect symmetry. It has to be an extra M over here. Symmet, if you can imagine that. So that means doing B. Question number 3. We have temperature. So we have rat left. A. Next one is the reasoning. And just try and read out the words to yourself and see what comes to mind. The reasoning. So we have sun is impossible to fault. He staggered on the uneven surface of the car. We get Eve. Then you have to put your spending, you have to suit your spending to your, over here, we have spend to your income, we get B. For these questions, we have 2 words. We have words that mean definitely, like definite, certain, positive, and then vague and negative means not the same thing. For question number 2, we have roll butter, soup, cook, sardine. We would have the word roll because roll is not something you can cook, and cook is not something to do with cooking. It's the verb, but it's not, you can't cook with cook, but you can cook with butter or soup or sardines, therefore it's A and D. All the words for 3 are to do with guessing or presuming, so assume, presume, and believe. Verify and prove are words to do with certainty. Verify means it's definitely correct, and so does prove. Question number 4, absence, altitude, degradation, height, and elevation. We can see altitude, height, and elevation are all words to do with height. And then absence and degradation is kind of the opposite. Degradation is to go downwards to make someone feel small. Therefore, the words would be absence. And for question 5, the words plea, appeal, and request are something where you are outwardly asking someone to do something. However, seduce, you are not asking them to do it. If you're seducing them, it's sort of like they're going to do it for you anyway. And then favor is you are not asking someone to do something, they are asking. Or rather, you can plead to someone, appeal to someone, request someone, but you can't favor someone. You can't, it's more, if you give a favor to someone, it's sort of the other person's asking you. You can't really favor to someone, therefore D would be the answer. And then 6, peach, plum, apricot, apple, and pear. So peach, plum, and apricot are all stone fruit, and then apple and pear are the ones with the core. Therefore, D and E would be the odd ones out. Question number 7, we have gum, sweet, tongue, banter, and cheek. All of these words have something to do with going in the mouth. A gum can go in your mouth, tongue, and cheek, they're all to do with your mouth. However, sweet and banter, which means B and D, are the odd ones out. Question number 8, if you imagine a photo, words like disingenuous and candid are how authentic the photos are. However, graceless, ungainly, and awkward sort of describe how the photo looks, rather whether it's authentic or not. Therefore, the words disingenuous means it's not real, it's not authentic. D means it is authentic, but they don't really describe the nature of the photo. Is it ugly? Is it graceless? Therefore, it would be A and D. Starting off with the non-verbal reasoning section, we are trying to find the odd one out, and it seems to me all these shapes on the outside have at least 2 lines of symmetry. For example, here we have a line of symmetry here, we have a line of symmetry there. Here we have, in fact, 6 lines of symmetry. All of them on the outside shape have at least 2, apart from E, which has none, actually. So no lines of symmetry on the outside. Therefore, E is the answer. Question number 2. We have an arrow and this semicircle banner flag on the outside. And each time this arrow is coming out of this flat side. So we have flat side, flat side, flat side, flat side. All of them except for D, where the arrow is coming out of the curved side. All of the others, apart from D, have this shape cut in half, and that's what's taken out. If you cut this in half, you get that small triangle there. If you cut this in half, you get a little bit of that top, except this one has been cut over here, which is much more than half. Therefore, the answer would be D. Question number 4, let's have a look at the number of sides in each shape. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can see that counting the number of sides, that gives us B as the odd one out. Question number 5, all these shapes are 180 degrees rotations of each other. So when we rotate this 180 degrees, this black circle is going to end up on the other side, and then this white is going to end up on, it sort of looks like a spoon, the spoon end is going to face outwards. Same thing with this, imagine we rotate it, this black square is going to end up like that, this faces upwards. All of them are 180 degrees apart from C, which is just a mirror image. If you were to rotate this 180 degrees, you'd have something with the triangle facing something like that, so it would be C. In question 6, these shapes all make up 2 arrowheads. We have an arrowhead here. If you move this half arrowhead here, we see that, let's do that in a different color so you can see this. If we move it here, then we end up getting 2 arrowheads, and if this one is already 2 arrowheads. However, this one, if we move this half one here, we get 2 arrowheads, but then we have an extra one. Therefore, the answer has to be D. Question number 7, we can see that all of the stripes on the circle are all consistent with the direction of the arrow. They're all vertical or following along, apart from A, which, let me do this in a different color, is not following through with the arrow. It's not going vertical in this direction. Therefore, it would be A. In question 8, we see that the black dots are always 2 is going to be on the line. We can see this one is on the line, this one is on the line. Same with on the line, apart from E, which we can see that only 1 is on the line of the shape. The 2 others are floating and not touching, therefore it has to be E. On the left-hand side for question 9, we always have 1 more if that's 3, then this one has to be 1. This is going to be 1 more than there. So if this is 3, this has to be 4. If this is 4, then this has to be 5. However, E is the only one where they have the same amount. For question 10, the order always goes in a clockwise direction, going star to circle. Clockwise going star to circle, clockwise going star to circle, and then clockwise going star to circle. The only one that isn't like that is this one is going anti-clockwise star to circle. So it would be D. For 11, this black shape, again, it's a similar principle to the last questions. The black is going to have more than the white by 1. So if this shape, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This white has 8. Oh, actually, it's going to be white has to be greater than black. This shape is going to have, that's a heptagon, it's going to have 7. In the same way, if the white has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 has to be 1 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's just a pentagon. All of them are the same apart from D, I'll just write that in, where this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this has the same number of vertices, therefore solution is D. For this one, I'm going to denote the direction in which these little extended bits of the L shape go. And I can see that this one is going anti-clockwise, this one is going anti-clockwise, 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 this one is going clockwise. Therefore, if we call this E, E is the answer. It seems to be going in a order that goes up and then back from the beginning. So 3, 4, start from 1 again. Then we have 1, 2, 3. So if we need to have 2, we can cross these out. We are going to go white, black, white, black. So we need to have black dots. We can cross out C. We always need to have the same number of dots. And if we have 2 arrows, so we have 3 dots here, 3 arrows. If we have 2 arrows, then we need to have 2 dots, so we can cross out D. And then the shape of the arrows is also alternating. If we go this way, it's going to go pointing to the right. Going to go left, and then it's going to go to the right. Therefore, the answer has to be B. For question 2, we have going big, small, and then we need to have big. So we have to cross out E. We're going circle, pentagon. So I'm just going to note down for the outside shape, and I'll do this outside shape in this red color. We're going circle 5, and we're going circle 4. Seems it has to be a circle on the outside, so we can cross out A and C. I'm going to denote the inside shape in this green. We have shape, then circle, shape, then circle. We have to have another shape. If we're stuck between these two, we know it can't be B. We need to have our answer as being D. This triangle shape is going to do a 90-degree rotation. If it's here, it's going to go like that. Therefore, we're going to end up with our triangle facing down like this. We're going to cross out A, C, and E. And then if we are exactly rotating this shape, this black shading is going to be on the left-hand side, because imagine this bit is going to go all the way over there, which means we get something that looks like B. I'm going to focus for question 4 on this white and grey, where white and grey do different. They do the same thing, then they do different. So now we need to have them doing the same thing. So white and grey are going to do the same. Cross out B, we cross out D because they're doing different things, and then E, they do different things. You'll also notice that if you just focus on one, it seems like they're doing 90-degree rotations. If you rotate this white one 90 degrees, you get, okay, fine, it will point to the left. But then when you rotate it again, okay, it will point up to the top. But then when you rotate it again, it's going to point to the right, but then we flip it. So it goes rotate, 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 flip. So then we're going to do one rotation, because let's try and see if this works with another one. We have rotate, we're focusing on the black. We have rotate, rotate, and flip. rotate, rotate, and flip. And that's probably going to be the pattern there. So when we have this middle arrow, we're going to do rotate, 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 and then flip. And then the next one, we're going to just have rotate. So it's going to have to face upwards, which is going to look something like C. We have another rotation. We're going to go anti-clockwise, anti-clockwise, another way anti-clockwise. We're going to get a triangle facing down, which means we can cross out A and D and E. And then this is going to go square, diamond, square. So fine, that's okay. We're going to do black, white, black, which means we get B. This, if we call this position for question 6, we're going to call this position 1, 2, and 3. So this black dot is moving from 1 to 2 to 3, and then back to 1. Then it's going to be in 2, so we can cross out C, and we can also cross out A. This middle arrow is also going from position 1, 3, 2, 1. Then it goes back to 3, so it would look like D. Question 7, let's try counting this. This goes from 12, 10, something, 6, 4. It looks like we're going down in even numbers or subtracting 2, so we need to get something that equals to 8. So if we're trying to equal to 8, it can't be A, can't be C, can't be D, and can't be E. It has to be B. If we're rotating 90 degrees, that means that this diamond will point outwards, next one will point something like that, which means we can't have B or E. And each time we're filling up more of this black bit, so it's going to fill up, always pointing, it's going to stay consistent with the rotation. So if we're filling up the rotation, it's going to look like something that's just over half shaded in black, which is something like A. For question 9, we have it, if we imagine it as a chair, we have the dot sitting on the chair and then on the legs. On the chair, on the legs, so it has to be sitting on the chair, so it can't be B, C, or D. And then let's track where it's going. It's going from, if this is position 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to go clockwise to this way, clockwise, clockwise, and then clockwise. So we have to have it over here, which both A and E are, which means we need to check the other orientations of the chair. We see that in every single one, there's the chairs where the legs are facing, bottom of the chair, where you sit on the chair is facing. Let's call that the seat. Over here, we have the seat facing, legs are facing. Legs are facing, seat facing, and then we have the same thing over here. However, E, we see this closed chair, which does not look like something we have. So the answer has to be A. For question 10, we are going up, let's focus on this inside shape. We're going up in 1, this is 3, and just make sure you can see, so 1 side, 3 side, 4 side, 5 side, which means this has to be 2. The only ones that have 2 sides are A and C, and we go off these shapes. We're going to have, it looks like we're filling it in from the sides. If it's here, then that means we have, the next one has to be filled over here, so then we can start filling in those dots from the outside in. Therefore, the next one has to look something like A. 11, we're doing a 90 degrees anti-clockwise rotation, so it's going to go from here to the next one, to the next one. What is the anti-clockwise? It's going to fill in this quadrant over here, which means you can cross out B, we can cross out C and D. And every time I guess we can look at it from when we flip this around, this shading is going to remain consistent with the rotation. It's not like we flip it or anything. If we rotate it, we know that this black section is going to go all the way to the inside where it is over here. Then we flip it around again. When we flip it around again, this black section is going to come to the outside to fill up this portion here, which looks like E. For question 12, this flag is going to, or this sailing, it looks a bit like a sail on a boat. It's going to do a 90 degrees rotation each time. However, if we rotate this 90 degrees, we should get the banner pointing down like this. However, we see that we flip it. If it's supposed to be pointing down, then we flip it up. The same thing if it's supposed to be floating this, facing this way, like it should be, we're going to flip it. So we have to do clockwise rotation, and it normally would be facing up, but then we have to flip it. It has to face down. So it can't look like A or C. And then let's pay attention to what's happening to this circle with the black shading. If we have this circle over here, it should be somewhere like that. So each time we can get a anti-clockwise rotation. So circle is equal to anti. And we're going to follow the shading along. The shading, if it's here, it's going to end up somewhere on this side because it has to follow through with that anti-clockwise rotation. Therefore, it's going to look like the shading in D. Question number 1 of similarities, we always have a trapezium shape. This can cross out all of them and just leave E as our answer. Question 2, we always have this white arrow that is of medium size. We definitely know it's not going to be A or B, and because it's slightly thicker than E, we're going to have C as our answer. For question 3, we have white shape, and shape on the outside is always going to be the same. We have triangle, big shape is triangle, small shape is circle, big shape is circle, this white one. So we have to see which ones are corresponding. We know it can't be B, can't be A, can't be D, and it can't be E. The C is the only one where the white shape is corresponding to the outer shape. Question number 4, the number of circles are corresponding to the vertices on the outside. If there's 4 circles, then it will be 4 vertices on the shape. Therefore, the only one that looks like that is E, as we have 5 circles and 5 vertices on the outside shape. Question 5, we always have the same variation of this elliptical object, so sort of like a circle, pentagon, and rectangle. So not A, that's a hexagon, not B, that's a hexagon, not C, that's a trapezium on the outside, and not D, that's a hexagon. The only answer will be E. Question 6, this hatching is always going to go from bottom left to bottom right, never the other way round. So we can cross out B, we can cross out D and E. We see that this this shape is always inside, this square is always inside the shape, so we can cross out A because it's a square. Or this one's a circle, it's not a square, so therefore we have to have C as our answer. For question 7, if we have rectangles on the outside, then the black little shapes have to be rectangles. Same with circles and then circles. So the shapes don't match up, neither in B, neither in D, and neither in E. The only one where the shapes match up is C. We can go ahead and straight away cross out for question 8, A, because this circle and triangle is always inside the shape. Circle and triangle is always inside the shape, always half in though, never fully in, so you can cross out D as well. And then these circle is not inside the shape. The only one that looks right is B. We need to have a circle, we're on question number 9, in the middle. So we can cross out C, cross out A. We need to have them never touching on these vertices, so we can cross out E. We also need to have them at every single vertices. This counts as a vertex, and if we don't have a circle there, then it won't work. If we don't have a circle over here, then it won't work. The only one that is right is B. Question 10, only the square and the circle are ever touching, so we have to cross out B. And then for D and E, we can see that this square is the wrong size, it's not the same as the shapes on the left, and the circle is the wrong size, it's too small. We know that the hatching, if you look closely, it's not just a grey triangle, it's got hatching as well, and it goes from bottom left to top right, and the C is going the opposite direction, therefore the answer is A. In terms of this outside shape, we always have 4 vertices on the outside, and they have to be straight, they're never curvy. We can cross out C, we can cross out D, and we can cross out E. Let's pay attention to this diamond in the middle. The ends of the diamond are far too long. A is the only one that looks proportional to the ones on the left, therefore the answer is A. Question number 12, they are the exact same shape, slightly touching. Exact meaning, and it can't be A because they're not touching. D doesn't look, they're not interlocking. E, they're the wrong number of sides. C has been flipped or rotated. B is the only one that is the exact same shape, slightly touching. Question number 1 of codes, what is common in here? Let's talk about the top shape. Top shape D and D are similar, which means the top shape corresponds to the shape it is. If the black squares, there's black squares here. We have black circles, so we need to have C at the top. We can cross out A and E. And now let's focus on the bottom. We seem to have different numbers every time. This is 3, this is 4, this is 2. So I'm assuming this bottom shape has something to do with the amount of black shapes we have. If we have 3, then the bottom shape must be W. Let's do this in a different color so we can differentiate. This bottom color is going to be W on the bottom, therefore the answer is C. Question number 2, what do we have in common? Let's bring out our pink highlighter. For the top, F and F are common, which means square on the outside. And then if this is a G, we need to have G at the top. G means circle. We can cross out B, we can cross out C and E. And at the bottom, we have T and T, which correspond, which probably means 2 black dots. If you've got 3 black dots here, we need to have R on the bottom, which means we get A as our shape. Question 3, what do we have in common on the bottom? We have R and R in common, which means the orientation. They're both facing up, which means we need to have T on the bottom, which means we cross out S, R, and R. Now, the top, we have C and C, which probably means circle on the outside. Here we have a square, which means the top has to be D, which means A is our answer. Question 4, what do we have in common on the bottom? We have U and U, which corresponds to shading of the arrow, as U and U are grey, which means we can cross, if we have black here, we need V on the bottom, which means we can cross out A, B, and E. What do we need at the top? All of these are different. We've got A, C, D, and B, and all of them are different because all of them are different directions. Which is the one going to the left? It looks like D, therefore D has to be at the top. We get D as our answer. 5, what do we have in common? We have C and C, however, these are too similar. They have too many things in common with circle and grey to know what it's really talking about. So let's see what is different in every single one. W, X, Y, and Z are all different, and that seems to be because there are all different shapes on the outside. If we have a square, a circle over here, that means that corresponds to X, which means we can take away C, D, and E. Let's figure out what's on the top. If we know that's to do with the shape on the outside, this has to be the shape on the inside, or this has to be corresponding to the shading because C and C are the same. That means B and D are different, which means it doesn't mean letter, otherwise they would be the same. Sorry, it doesn't mean the shape in the middle, otherwise this would be the same. No, the shading, because that would be black and this would be white. Therefore, because they're different, we know it's to do with the shading, and then B, white, means we have to have B on top, which means this is A. We are identifying T and T, which corresponds to this squiggly zigzag line, which means S is probably to do with the straight lines, which means we can cross away A, D, and E. And then at the bottom, what's similar? We have semicircle K, therefore bottom has to be L because that's a rectangle, we get B. Question 7, J and J are similar, which means that probably corresponds to the hatching. It goes from top right, from here to there, to bottom left, and then that means vertical is going to be K, which means we cross out B, C, and E. Next, we have what's similar over here. We have P, and P corresponds to the shape at the top. And so the bottom left corner means Q is going to have to be at the bottom. We get A. Question 8, S and S are the same. That corresponds to white shading. So we need to have R in our shape, which means we cross out B, C, and E. And then at the top, we have all different shapes. We have K, J, and L, which probably corresponds to position of arrow, 1, 2, or 3. If it's in the middle, that looks like J, therefore our answer is going to be D. Question 9, M and M are similar, which means that corresponds to grey circle, which means we need N on the bottom. We cross out B, C, that's it. At the top, they're all different, H, I, and J, which means that corresponds to the outside shape. If we have a pentagon, it's going to be J, which means we get D as our answer. Question 10, C and C are common. That corresponds to black shape on the inside. On the top, we must have D, so let's cross out B and D, which means at the bottom, they're all different, which means that corresponds to the outside border differing widths. This one looks closest to Z at the bottom, so we end up with E. Let's identify some key points. P and P are similar. Not seeing yet how that seems to be useful to us, but then we also have F and F that is similar. So F and F, I'm going to guess, corresponds to grey shading for the circle, which we also have in our shape. So we're going to take away A, J, and E. P and P, I'm going to say, corresponds with this white bit at the bottom. This is white, this is also white. Therefore, if the bottom is grey, we're going to have S, which is going to look like B. Question 12, this is going anti-clockwise. We have D and D are the same, and then B and B are also the same. What's common? This is going in an anti-clockwise direction, and B is going in a clockwise direction. Therefore, if our shape is going in anti-clockwise, we need to have D on top, which makes us cross out B and C. Now, what's the same in the bottom? We have D, T, and T. We also see that we have the same letters over here. So I notice with these V's, we have 2 and 4, which are even numbers. When it's odd, we have odd numbers. So odd, we have T's. Therefore, how many do we have here? We have 5, which means T needs to go on the bottom. We get E. Question 1, we've got a vertical line of symmetry here, which means if it's triangle, triangle, we're going to have semicircle, semicircle. We can get rid of D, and then this black shading is going to flip to white, so you can cross out these, and it's also going to be a square again since it's just being reflected. We end up with B. Question 2, you can see the bigger picture with this. If we have squares, white squares here, we're going to have to complete the picture by having white squares here too. We can cross out A, C, and E, and then these we're not going to have any black squares at the top because black squares are only reserved for this middle row, which means we can't cross out any of them, but that's helping us build the bigger picture. And then we get something that if we were to continue this, we need to have that, and then we need to have this triangle bit on the end that connects. Just like here we have a square and a triangle. Just like for D we have a square and a triangle. We always have black, grey, white, black, grey, white. We are missing a grey here, so you cross out A and C, and they're always facing the same orientation. These grey shapes, the pointy side is always pointing to the left, therefore we can cross out D, and this hatching is always vertical, so we get E as our answer. For question 4, the main layout of the shape is always going to stay the same. We have like a banner with a circle every single time, so we're going to have a teardrop with a square every single time, so we can cross out C and E. We always have some shading, and if we focus on these two, whatever shading is in the middle is going to come to the outside. If there's hatching in the middle, it's going to come to the outside. D has the circle in the middle, so we have hatching on the outside, we get A over here. Outside shapes in each row always stay the same. We have triangle, pentagon, next one is going to be a square, we can cross out C. And if you notice, we have 3 of this little star, 3 of these squares. What we need 1 more of is the star, and the only one that has the star on the inside is going to be B. Each time this middle shape we are rotating seems to be 90 degrees, and if you focus here, we had a shape, we rotated it, looks like it's going to be a hexagon, and then when we rotate it again we cut it in half every single time. So if we rotate 1 more time, that means it needs to go this way. That means we have the flat bit on the bottom. We know it's going to be a hexagon, can't be this, can't be that. We know it's going to be a hexagon with flat at the bottom. Now we need to pay attention to these little squares. These small white squares are always going anti-clockwise in the vertices. If we focus on this middle row, it starts off over here, goes up anti-clockwise, and then goes here anti-clockwise. So then this one has to go anti-clockwise. If it's here, it's going to go anti-clockwise over there, which looks like A. For question 7, we can see that these are a combination of each other. For the last shape, if you put this pentagon on top of this triangle, you have a combination of the hatching and the shape, so both combined. This one has to be blank because we see that the stripes don't change, so we can cross out C and E. And then if you see what do we have to put on top, we're adding this shape. So that point at the top means that the shape's going to have to look like E. Question H, each shape experiences a 90-degree clockwise rotation, or rather they move up a position, but rotation helps you visualize the stripes better. So black would be in this position over here. We can cross out B, C, and D. And let's pay attention, if this rotates, then these stripes are going to face on the outside like that, which gives us shape A. For here, I'm just counting each one. How many sides do we have? We have 6, 5, and 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Over here, we have, let's do this in a different color so you can see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 6, 5. So we see that we have going counting down. So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that means our next one is going to have 8. Or let's count this one to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If we're counting down, our next one is going to have 6. Which one has 6? None of them look like this. Let's get our red pen back. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It seems like B works out. However, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We just check the others to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It has to be B. Let's count the number of dots over here. We have 3, 5, 3. So these ones are always going to be the same. We have 1 because 2 and 2 are the same. We have 1 dot on the bottom, which means you can cross out these, and then pay attention to the shapes. We always have the same. We have an arrow, a flag, and a pentagon. We are missing the pentagon in this row, which means our answer has to be C. We are going to rotate this inside shape by 90 degrees clockwise. That means our L is going to look like this, which means we can cross out A, D, and E. And then once we have that, let's pay attention to what's happening to the lines. They have to be like this in the next row. Only one that looks like that is B. For question 12, the way I look at it, we are going to take this configuration, these outside shapes. Let me highlight which ones, these and that, and we are going to rotate those by 90 degrees anti-clockwise, which means we end up with these black dots over here, and we change this black triangle all the way to there, which means we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take this, and I'll do it in a different color, this one, and that one, and rotate all of those 90 degrees, which means we end up with something here, that's black, one over here, that's black, and then one circle, which starts to look a little bit something like, oh, we have this as well, a white circle over here. The only ones that are looking like that so far is, in fact, none of them apart from C. Question 1, outside shape becomes inside shape, outside shape becomes inside shape. We can cross out all of them apart from B. Question 2, this shading will always stay on the left hand side, so grey, it has to be grey on the left as well. We can cross out A, D, those are the only ones, and then these shapes come together to be matching. If we have white on the left, we're going to have white on the left again. We need to have black on the left, which can cross out, all of them have black on the left. We need to have them at the base of the shape, which means we can cross out C, and then this white shape is going to flip downwards, which means this black shape is going to flip downwards, which means we have something that looks like E, because these circles are close in the middle as opposed to B, which are out on the outside. Question number 3, we have white on the inside, which goes to black, so all of them go to black, and if it's vertical shading over here, it goes to horizontal. Vertical goes to horizontal, we cross out D in these ones. We also flip the inside shape, so that pointy bit is going to go on the top. The only one where the pointy bit goes on the top, or this, what I mean is this small flat bit is on the top, so C is the answer. Question number 4, let's make sure you can see. This arrow shape in the middle is going to experience a vertical axis of reflection. In the same way, we have something that's a vertical axis of reflection here, so we need to be facing it with 2 little lines, which looks something like C and E. And then what happens here, if you use this mirror line, we have the white, we have the mirror of the shapes, but the shading inverses. We need to have something that if it's white here, we're going to have a black square over here. That one looks like C. Question number 5, we have a dots in the middle, and it's 4 black, 3 white. However, here we have the 3, this one corresponds to the outside shape, but the shading inverses. So this one corresponds to the outside shape. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're white, so the outside is going to be a black hexagon. We can cross these out. The inside shape is going to be a circle because we only have 1 dot, and that's going to have 1 vertex, so it's a circle. So 6 we see is compounded of these shapes put together. They've just broken them up, but we see this pointy bit over here and this pointy bit over here and then flat bit over here, and these flat sides are all consistent. So the same thing over here, we need to have just 1 pointy bit, and this one checks out, so these do not look right. Actually, we can't cross out A for sure because we have our pointy bit on the left, and D definitely does not look right. And let's focus on the hatching. If the hatching is going this way, it's going to inverse and go that way. So if we have it going this way, it's got to go the other way, so it can't be E. And then which one's consistent? If we know it's small here, it's going to get bigger. It doesn't stay the same size, so it has to be C. So question number 7, we have this pentagon here, which ends up going on the top and inverses shading. So we're going to have white, black on the top. We can cross these out, and we're going to have the same shape. It doesn't change configuration going on the inside. So if it's black at the top, it's going to be small white at the bottom. Oh no, it's going to be black and then black again. So we can cross out A. And it has to be the same configuration. If it's pointing down, then it has to point down again. We get D. Question number 8. It looks like we are flipping the shape. It is having a 90-degree clockwise rotation, because in this square is going to end up somewhere here, and then a circle just like in the picture. So when we flip this around, we need to have the same shading on the top. We can cross out B, and we know it's going to get smaller, so it can't be the same shape, the same size, so it needs to go smaller here. Another way to look at how we move these inside shapes is going from, if it's on the right, it's going to be on the left. If it's on the left, then it's going to be on the right. So the answer is C. Question 9, these shapes are going to do a 90 degrees rotation anti-clockwise and then split. So we're going to do an anti-clockwise rotation and then split, which means these shadings stay the same, by the way. If they're vertical, they're going to stay vertical. And so we can't have something like D because the shading is all wrong, or E because there's no shading at all, or B because these inside shapes are going to, if it's semicircle over here, it's going to go on the top. If it's circle here, it's going to go on the top, which means you get something that looks like A. Question number 10, we have a triangle on the outside.
So cubes. To do these, you need to understand how a cube folds up. So these are the different ways a cube can fold up. There's only 3 of them here, but what you should know is when there are points on the outside of a cube, for example these ones, they're going to go inwards, and these are going to be the 2 sides, right? So this is going to be the bottom, this is going to be the left and the right side, this is going to be the front side, and this is going to fold over and going to be on the top, and this is going to be the back. So a good diagram to show that is one that's in our book. You can see how everything is folding up. You can see this one is going in to the front, and then this is going to go over the top. And again, you can see 4 different ways that a cube can actually fold up. So these all of these will become a cube. And what you can see here is if something is 2 spaces away from each other, they will be opposite, right? So you can see 1 and 1 are going to be opposite each other. 2 and 2 are going to be opposite each other. And the same here. So if you imagine this folding up to the right, this is going to fold there, and then the 2 is actually going to go around to this side, and then these 2 are going to be opposite each other. So that's just something to keep in mind while we do these questions. So question 73, we have to match obviously the cube to the net. So first of all, we can see some directions, right? So some pointers. These are the best way to figure out which one we can cancel out. So if you look at the arrow, it's pointing towards the corner of this rectangle, and in A it's pointing away, so it can't be that. Obviously when you fold it as well, it's not going to be pointing towards the rectangle either, so we can cross that out. This one is pointing towards a corner, so that seems to be okay. What we know is where it's pointing, right, this area, there should be a black circle on top of it. So if we actually continue to fold it, we'll see that the E will be on top of this corner rather than a black circle, so we can cross out that. This is not pointing towards the rectangle, but let's see if we can fold it. I'm imagining folding the E and then folding the rectangle on top of it, and it still won't be. So what will happen here is the rectangle will fold and it will look like this. Right, and then the arrow is pointing towards a different direction, or that's at least what it looks like to me. So I'm going to go ahead and look for the next one. This one is just pointing the wrong way, blatantly. And E, you can see this is pointing in the right direction. If we continue to fold these, you can see that the circle will go on top of this section, which means it must be E. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, what we're looking for here is, first of all, the arrow pointing to the corner of the rectangle. And then, the slanted rectangle, and parallelogram is a better way to say it. And then if you, in that point, there has to be a black circle above it, right? And you can see this is the only one that matches that. So, question 74, if we look at X, it needs to be on the right of an equal sign. Okay, so if we look at X and equals right here, they're one gap away. That means they're going to be opposite. So that's obviously can't be the case, because these are next to each other, so it can't be A. These ones are next to each other, so that matches. Now it's a question of whether the divide symbol will go on top of it in the correct way. So imagine folding the plus onwards to the equal sign. So it's going to be like this, right? So this plus is going to be here. This equal sign is going to be up here. And think about where the divide is going to fold on. So the divide is facing this way, right? It's going to be like this. And we can see that does seem to match, actually, for now. Now, whether or not if I rotate that and put the X on the other side, it does seem to match. So what I'm saying here is, if you look at this line of the divide sign, it has to be pointing towards the equal, like downwards, like here, right? So to me that looks like B is the answer. I'm going to just double check the rest of them to make sure that they are not correct, right? So if we look at this, can the equal sign come next to the actual times multiplication sign here? For all this is going to go on right here. This is going to, the equal sign is going to be here. And the multiplication sign is actually going to be underneath the divide, so it definitely can't be that. If we look at these two, this looks alright, but then what you realize is the divide sign is actually pointing down towards the multiplication sign rather than the equal sign, so it can't be that. And the equal sign, this one seems to be okay for now. If we fold this all the way around, so this is going to be opposite, this is going to be next to it, and the time sign is going to be underneath it. So what's actually going to happen here, it's going to be like this, and then the time sign is going to be down here, and the divide sign is obviously going to be on this side, which doesn't match. They need to be next to each other, and the divide has to be on the top, right? So it can't be E either. Okay, question 75. Circle and a triangle. So again here we know that these two need to be next to each other, and this is very clearly not next to each other. If we continue to fold, you'll see that the triangle will actually be on top and it'll be pointing downwards towards the circle, so it can't be A. If we look at this one, similar thing here, these won't be next, these actually will be next to each other. So if you fold these, imagine folding this one and this one inwards, they'll actually be in a similar fashion to this, right? This is, for example, the corner of the cube. Here is a triangle and here is the circle with the black thing on top, right? The black section on top. So since we found it on B already, I'm gonna not check the other ones just to keep the time short. But when you find something like it's very clear here that it is B, there's no sort of, you're not doubting your answer, then I'd say to save time you should be good to go with B. You won't always be able to check every single one. If you have spare time, you want to check every single one. The reason I checked everyone on the question 74 was because this is a little bit more tricky, and there's a chance that I might have made a mistake, for example, with the folding in my head. So question 76, arrow has to be pointing upwards towards the diagonal line. Well, it's pointing towards a triangle here, so it can't be A. It's pointing towards a diagonal line here, so that should be alright. And it does seem to be next to the plus as well, so it should be B here as well. And just to very quickly check the other ones, this one is pointing towards, pointing away from the diagonal line, so it can't be that. And this one is pointing the right way. But let's see what it looks like when you fold it. Okay. So this is going to be underneath, right? This is going to be pointing up on the side, right? And this one is going to be where the plus is. Plus, right? Now, is this correct? It looks pretty correct to me. So it's either going to be this one or this one. So I think there's one of them must have an issue with it. If I try and rotate that one around, it's pointing upwards with the diagonal line going this way. Alright, okay, so this one is actually going the wrong way. So it's a good thing that we checked this, right? Because you can see the diagonal line would be going the other way rather than right to top left, right? So it's actually going to be E here. Question 77. If we fold these, yeah, that looks pretty accurate already. So if I fold this, this is going to be on the right below the square, and this is going to be on the right of it. And then if I rotate that cube, it's going to look exactly like this. So I'm going to go with A. I'm going to quickly check the other ones because I found it so quickly. So square and yep, this looks like the row won't be pointing the right way, even though these two will be next to each other. The row of dots won't be pointing the right way. It needs to be pointing towards the square. And actually that's the same case with this. These two are actually opposite, so it can't be that. If these fold together, it will be pointing towards the square. But let's fold these properly. This is now to the left of it, right? So if you fold these and then you rotate it around so that it is looking in a way like this, right? Obviously when you fold these first, you're just going to see the diamond and these, let's say, I think this is the easiest way to show it. This is what it's going to look like, right? So here's the 6-sided die section, and the square is actually going to be below it rather than above it, so it can't be D here. And these two are opposite, so that's definitely can't be E there. Okay, last 3 questions here. This is a T, if you can see that. So K and C, opposites on A, so it can't be that. T and K and C, so if we fold this, S is going to be below it, and C is actually going to come up and be next to the K. However, if you imagine the way it's being folded, it's actually going to be pointing like this. Alright, so this is what the C is going to look like in B, so I don't think it will be B. So what we've got here is the T will join up with the K. Alright, so this is actually where the T is going to be. The bottom will always connect up with the top, and you can always know that the bottom part of the shape is actually going to be what you see at the top. So you can see the T is above the K, which is alright. If you keep folding it, you'll get again the C will be pointing up, right? So this is where these two connect. So if you imagine this C is, and this is where the K is, right? sorry, the K is going to join up with the C on the side. So look at this section, right? These two are going to connect. That means this line is going to be next to this line. So this line means that the K is going to actually look like this, right? And then obviously the T is on top of it. So again, it can't be C because of that sort of discrepancy here. The C has to be pointing upwards. So what the easiest way, I'll show you what that would look like. This one actually is showing it, right? So you can see the side of the K is going to connect with the side of the C, and both of them are actually pointing upwards, right? So when you're folding these, this will obviously stay the same. The T is pointing upwards away from the K as well, so this is the correct answer. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, the easiest way to do letter cubes is to know how these are going to connect. So this is just going to connect with this. Just imagine the shapes. So hopefully if I can show you something like this, what this is, right? This is the top and the right, right? So you can see this section that I'm pointing at is how it's going to connect, right? Like right here, and you can see what that's happening, how that's happening here. Now, even if you're imagining folding it upwards, like it does in this book, it will still end up with the same result. But I prefer to imagine it folding downwards, right? And that makes it just a bit easier, so you don't have to imagine the back of the cube. Okay, 79. So this one, we can immediately cancel out A because this is opposite to this, and these two are meant to be next to each other. So this is actually going to connect. So this is pointing towards the 3 dots here, and it can't be that. It's not pointing towards the 3 dots in question 79. So if we carry on here, the arrow here is pointing the right direction. It's pointing away from the 3 dots. 3 dots are pointing the right way. Now all we have to see is if this will join up. Well, what we can see is this is obviously going to join up with this. So that's going to be that, and then this is obviously going to be pointing up towards here. So again, if you imagine the fold, sort of folding, let's imagine this is going to stay still. This is going to fold downwards to the side, and this is going to fold to the right. So this is right underneath, and then this is going to fold down. What we can see is, again, the bottom of this sort of triangle shape is going to be next to the black circle, which matches. So it's going to be C here. We'll check the other ones just to make sure. This already matches. However, I'm going to assume that the dots are not going to match. So if we fold that downwards and then fold that again, again, let's look at a better way of explaining this. This is going to connect with this, similar like we showed here, right? And then this is going to connect with that. So that also matches, right? So again, we've come into a situation where it's something like this, where it's probably going to be an issue of which way it's rotated. So actually I can see here, although this is sort of the same looking shape, it's going to be the dots, and it's going to be the triangle over here, and then the circle over here. What you can see, right, is that this is on the right of the 3 dots, whereas it needs to be on the left, right? And this one had it correct. If I look at that, yeah, this one had it, C had it correct. And I think this one is going to go the same way. The dots are facing the wrong way. What's going to happen with the dots, sorry, I meant to cross that, is it's going to be facing like this rather than upwards towards the triangle. Okay, final question here on question 80. If we have the circle and we have the black, this is going to be pointing towards the circle, so that looks alright so far. And then this is going to connect here, and that looks pretty much spot on if we rotate that. Let's look at something else, the other options, just to make sure. This looks alright as well. However, what's happening here is the black circle, the black shade is on the bottom side whereas like it's here rather than being where it is over here, so it can't be B. If we look at this again, the black shade should not be on the side of the circle, it should be pointing downwards like this, so it can't be C. This one seems to be okay so far, and if we keep folding it, this will join here, and then this will actually be underneath it, so it can't be D. Again, whenever there's a gap, so there's one blank space and there's a gap, what you can do, I mean, it means it's going to be opposite each other, and it can't be opposite, right? So this one, again, similar option. These are going to join here, but the black should be on the right, rather than on the bottom left, right? So that is the cube section.